He would just tell us that this particular character is feeling like this in this particular moment.
First of all, I was very reluctant to go into it at all because, you know, I had that middle-class inhibition against being on the screen, though I had acted on the stage, but that was non-professional stage, of course. I didn't like the role either, because the role in Panchali, his first film in which I was, it was the role of a village wife. But when I started working with him, it was absolutely different. I got so much involved in it and inspired by the team spirit, you should say. I never felt anything was forced on me. The genuineness of the atmosphere and his direction as well. You know, as a director, he wouldn't, he would just describe the particular scene or the emotion he wants me to do, and would just stand by and see how I can do it. So I also felt that I was contributing to the creation, to his creative efforts.
Second time when you went there, you were offered with the role?
না, সব রকমই যদি প্রথমে স্বাধীনতা দেন, তারপরে যদি না পারেন।
She says that he gives you entire liberty to perform in the beginning. He interferes only when you make a mistake or he wants to guide you or correct you in some direction.
To serve as a sales girl in a respectable firm.
What's wrong with using a little lipstick? You put red here, why not here?
তোকে এভাবে যে কষ্ট ভোগ করতে হবে আমি ভাবিনি।
কি কষ্ট বাবা? কে আমাকে চাকরিতে পাঠিয়েছে? কেউ তো পাঠায়নি, আমি নিজে চাকরি নিয়েছি। আর তাছাড়া আমার খুব ভালো লাগছে। পাচ্ছ না চিনতে? ঠিক করে বলো তো।
একটু যেন অচেনা অচেনা।
I once made a film called The Goddess, Devi. It dealt with religious dogmatism. It didn't attack religion as such. It attacked dogmatism, the extreme form of religion. But people were writing in the papers that, oh, because Mr. Ray is not a Hindu, he was a Brahmo, he's making such films against Hinduism and all that. But they are stupid people, you can't take them into account. This happens in India all the time. And people don't, we have a fairly backward audience here, I must say, in spite of the film society movement and all that. If you consider the large audience, it's a backward audience, unsophisticated audience, exposed to the commercial Hindi cinema more than anything else. And so, you face this problem, but you make the kind of films, I make the kind of films that I want to make. I make the kind of films that I enjoy making, that engages my attention, my creativity. That's all I can do.
Satyajit Ray, the man I believe used to smell like art. He was born on the 2nd of May 1921 in Kolkata to one of the leading writers, Mr. Sukumar Ray, and Mrs. Suprabha Ray. Satyajit Ray's ancestry can be traced back to at least 10 generations. The earliest recorded ancestor of the Ray family was Ramsundar Deo, Deb, born in the middle of the 16th century. He was a native of Chakta village in Nadia district of present-day West Bengal, India, and migrated to Sherpur in East Bengal. He became the son-in-law of the ruler of Jashodal and was granted a jagir, a feudal land grant, at Jashodal, in present-day Kishoreganj district of Bangladesh. His descendants migrated to the village Masua in Katiadi Upazila of Kishoreganj district in the first half of the 18th century. Satyajit Ray's grandfather, Upendrakishore Ray, was born in Masua village in 1863. Upendrakishore Ray was a writer, illustrator, philosopher, publisher, amateur astronomer, and leader of the Brahmo Samaj, a religious and social movement in 19th century Bengal. He set up a printing press named U. Ray and Sons. Sukumar Ray, Upendrakishore's son and father of Satyajit, was an illustrator, critic, and pioneering Bengali writer of nonsense rhyme, abol tabol, and children's literature. Social worker and children's book author Charulata Rao was his aunt. Sukumar Ray died very early at the age of 35 when Satyajit was 2 years old. Ray grew up in the house of his grandfather, Upendrakishore Ray Chowdhury, and of his printing press. He was attracted by the machines and process of printing from an early age and took a particular interest in the production process of Sandesh, a children's magazine started by Upendrakishore Ray Chowdhury.
যেমন মহানগরে কাজ হয়ে যাবার পর সত্যজিৎ রায় ওই সময় আমাকে একটা কথা বলেছিলেন, আবার কবে তোমার সঙ্গে ছবি করব। তা আমি এটা শুনে একটু বিস্মিত হলাম যে এই কথাটা তো আমার বলা কথা। সেটা উনি বললেন, আমি চুপ করেই থাকতাম, কারণ কথা আমি বেশি বলতে পারি না। তারপর চলে আসলাম, খুব বেশি দিন নয়, তারপরেই উনি আমাকে টেলিফোন করে বললেন যে নষ্ট নীড়টা পড়েছ, আমি নষ্ট নীড়টা পাঠাচ্ছি, ওটা পড়ো। তাই আমি বললাম হ্যাঁ ওটা পড়া আমার। বললো থাক আর একবার পড়ো। আবার নষ্ট নীড় নিশ্চয়ই উনি দিয়েছেন, আবার পড়লাম।
Ray studied at Baligunja Government High School in Calcutta and completed his BA in economics at Presidency College, Calcutta, then affiliated with the University of Calcutta. During his school days, he saw several Hollywood productions in the cinema. The works of Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Ernst Lubitsch, and movies such as The Thief of Baghdad and Uncle Tom's Cabin made a lasting impression on his mind. He developed a keen interest in Western classical music.
The cattle are prowling, the coyotes are howling, way out where the dog is bald. Where spurs are a-jingling, the cowboy is singing this lonesome cattle call.
His mother's persuasiveness and his respect for Tagore finally convinced him to get admitted there for higher studies in fine arts. In Santiniketan, Ray came to appreciate Oriental art. He later admitted that he learned much from the famous painters Nandalal Bose and Madhabi Mukherjee.
Has been blind in one eye from birth.
The Inner Eye.
The other eye, which was severely myopic, he lost 15 years ago at the age of 53. Vinod Bihari has lived most of his life in Shantiniketan.
Satyajit invariably wanted to showcase his art in a distinctive way, and when he visited Ellora caves and after witnessing such carvings on the wall and such art forms, he accepted he can't be the best in this art as already. India is further in this art form, so he chose to make films and sweat on the subject of moving frames, as he was convinced that India has not yet explored the fundamentals of proper cinema. And Ray knew he could somehow contribute in world through his magnificent Indian cinema. In 1943, Ray started working at DJ Keemer, a British advertising agency, as a junior visualizer. Here he was trained the Indian commercial art under artist Ananda Munshi, the then art director of DJ Keemer. Although he liked visual design, graphic design, and he was mostly treated well, there was tension between the British and Indian employees of the firm. The British were better paid, and Ray felt that the clients were generally stupid. In 1943, Ray started a second job for the Signet Press, a new publisher started by D.K. Gupta. Gupta asked Ray to create book cover designs for the company and gave him complete artistic freedom. Ray established himself as a commercial illustrator, becoming a leading Indian typographer and book jacket designer. Ray designed covers for many books, including Jibanananda Das's Banalata Sen and Rupasi Bangla, Bibhuti Bandyopadhyay's Chandar Pahar, Jim Corbett's Man-Eaters of Kumaon, and Jawaharlal Nehru's Discovery of India. In 1949, Ray married Bijoya Das, his first cousin and longtime sweetheart. The couple had a son, Sandip Ray, a film director. In the same year, French director Jean Renoir came to Calcutta to shoot his film, The River. Ray helped him to find locations in the countryside. Ray told Renoir about his idea of filming Pather Panchali, which had long been on his mind, and Renoir encouraged him in the project. In 1950, DJ Keemer sent Ray to London to work at the headquarters. During his 6 months in London, Ray watched 99 films, including Alexander Dovzhenko's Earth, 1930, and Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game, 1939. Ray later said that he walked out of the theater determined to become a filmmaker. After being deeply moved by Pather Panchali, the 1928 classic Bildungs Roman of Bengali literature, Ray decided to adapt it for his first film. Pather Panchali is a semi-autobiographical novel describing the maturation of Apu, a small boy in a Bengal village.
Shoot all the things in a village?
Yes. Not very far from Calcutta, actually. You can drive 10 miles out of the city and come to a village with no electricity. You know, it's quite an authentic village with nothing of the city about it.
How long did you shoot the film? How long did it take you to shoot all the exteriors?
Well, you see, the number of shooting days, I think, was 72 or 3 in all. But it was spread over a period of 3 years because we had no money for long stretches in between. And we were just waiting for the next installment of money from somewhere or other.
All the people who worked with you on the film were...
Well, the crew, they were all friends of mine, you see.
And have they worked in other films?
Well, the art director had some professional experience and the editor had some professional experience.
How about the cameraman?
But the cameraman was absolutely new. He was a young musician. He was a good friend of mine. He played the sitar. And I think he had done some still photography. Not as an amateur, you know. Just he happened to have a camera, that's all. But he was an ambitious young boy and he wanted to make a movie, if possible. I mean, he had watched Claude Renoir at work on the river. Oh. But of course that was color and the problems there were quite different. I mean, lighting, etc., absolutely different.
Did you have a lot to do with the design of every frame? Or was it more or less the way
No,
you did?
I don't like two sort of well-composed frames, you know. After all, generally you have panning shots and things, so composition in filmmaking is not quite the same as composition in painting, for instance. I think a too well-designed sort of frame, which makes you contemplate it for its own sake, is wrong. I mean, it's not serving its function properly, I think.
Were you satisfied with the work that was done on your film?
Yes, well, very large part of it I found it very satisfactory. Of course, I have my own dissatisfactions with certain aspects of it, but we did our best. We were not always able to do what we wanted.
বস খানা কোথায় এলাম রে ওগুলো কি রে মা যদি
The Times of India wrote, "It is absurd to compare it with any other Indian cinema. Pather Panchali is pure cinema." Ray's international career started in earnest after the success of his next film, the second in the Apu Trilogy, Aparajito, 1956, The Unvanquished. This film depicts the eternal struggle between the ambitions of a young man, Apu, and the mother who loves him. Upon release, Aparajito won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, bringing Ray considerable acclaim. In a retrospective review, Edward Guthman of the San Francisco Chronicle praised Ray for his ability to capture emotions and blend music with storytelling to create a flawless picture. Director critics such as Mrinal Sen and Ritwik Ghatak rank it higher than Ray's first film. Ray directed and released 2 other films in 1958, the comic Parash Pathar, The Philosopher's Stone, and Jalsagar, The Music Room, a film about the decadence of the zamindars, considered one of his most important works. While making Aparajito, Ray had not planned a trilogy, but after he was asked about the idea in Venice, it appealed to him. He finished the last of the trilogy, Apur Sansar, The World of Apu, in 1959. Ray introduced 2 of his favorite actors, Soumitra Chatterjee and Sharmila Tagore, in this film.
কি হলো? রাগ না দুঃখ না অভিমান?
রাগ।
কেন?
আমি কি ট্রামে বসে চড়তে পারি না?
বড্ড ভিড় যে, এখানে কেমন একা আছি বলো তো?
কিন্তু খরচ হলে যে বেশি।
তো 7 আনা।
তবে
কদিন পরেই তো চলে যাবে, তখন যে খরচ অর্ধেক হয়ে যাবে।
সে তো 2 মাসের জন্য।
2 মাস কি কম হলো?
আর ফিরে এসে যে খরচ বাড়বে।
তা বাড়বে। জানো, আমি তোমাকে যেতে দিতে চাইনি, কিন্তু তোমার মা এমন করে লিখলেন, আর আমি ভাবলাম এ সময়টা
ভালোই তো, তুমিও হাঁপ ছেড়ে বাঁচবে। 2 মাসের জন্য তো নিশ্চিন্ত।
না, তবে একটা কাজ হবে, উপন্যাসটা এগিয়ে থাকবে। বিয়ের পর 1 লাইনও লিখিনি।
সে বুঝি আমার দোষ?
তোমার গুণ। আমার লেখা আমার কাছে কত বড় জানো? তুমি তার চেয়েও বড়।
সত্যি?
ওটা তোমায় উৎসর্গ করব।
কি স্বর্গ?
টু মাই ওয়াইফ।
ওয়াইফ মানে জানি।
তুমি জানো না, আমি জানি।
আমিও জানি।
কি
দেখলাম।
আচ্ছা, তোমার চোখে কি আছে বলো তো?
কাজল।
It opens with Apu living in a Calcutta house in near poverty. He becomes involved in an unusual marriage with Aparna. The scenes of their life together form one of the cinema's classic affirmative depictions of married life. Critics Robin Wood and Aparna Sen thought it was a major achievement to mark the end of the trilogy.
আমি কাছ থেকে দেখতে পেতাম যে অন্য সমস্ত বড় ডিরেক্টরের থেকে ওর তফাৎটা কোথায়, সেটা ওর শিল্প দৃষ্টিতে। আমার নিজের শিল্পবোধ আমাকে বলতো যে তুমিও তো জীবনে এইটাই খুঁজছো, একে দেখে শেখো, এর কাছ থেকে নাও। এই জন্য আমার হয়তো ওর প্রতি যে শ্রদ্ধাটা সেটা এত অটুট ছিল, এই ভরসাটা তার উপর আমার ছিল। এই দিক থেকে আমার অটুট একটা আস্থা ছিল তার উপর, বিশ্বাস ছিল। সেই জন্যই আমাদের এই ধরনের একটা বোঝাপড়া তৈরি হয়েছে।
Devi to Charulata. During this period, Ray made films about the British Raj period, a documentary on Tagore, a comic film, Mahapurush, and his first film from an original screenplay, Kanchenjunga. He also made a series of films that, taken together, are considered by critics among the most deeply felt portrayals of Indian women on screen. Ray followed Apur Sansar with 1960's Devi, the Goddess, a film in which he examined the superstitions in Hindu society. Sharmila Tagore starred as Doya Moyi, a young wife who is deified by her father-in-law. Ray was worried that the Central Board of Film Certification might block his film, or at least make him recut it, but Devi was spared. Upon international distribution, the critic from Chicago Reader described the film as full of sensuality and ironic undertones.
তুমি এসেছো?
দয়া,
এটা পড়িয়ে দাও না লক্ষ্মীটি, এটা পড়িয়ে দাও না। দাও দাও, শিখিয়ে দাও, আমরা যাবো যে। দাও।
কোথায় যাবো দয়া?
পালিয়ে যাবো। নইলে এরা আমি মেরে ফেলবে। খোকাকে
দয়া,
শিখে চলো।
দয়া,
চলো।
দয়া,
ছাড়ো।
In 1961, on the insistence of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Ray was commissioned to make Rabindranath Tagore, based on the poet of the same name, on the occasion of his birth centennial, a tribute to the person who likely most influenced Ray. Due to limited footage of Tagore, Ray was challenged by the necessity of making the film mainly with static material. He said that it took as much work as 3 feature films. In the same year, together with Subhas Mukherjee and others, Ray was able to revive Sandesh, the children's magazine which his grandfather had founded. Ray had been saving money for some years to make this possible. A duality in the name, Sandesh means both news in Bengali and also a sweet popular dessert, set the tone of the magazine, both educational and entertaining. Ray began to make illustrations for it, as well as to write stories and essays for children. Writing eventually became a steady source of income. In 1964, Ray directed Charulata, The Lonely Wife. One of Ray's favorite films, it was regarded by many critics as his most accomplished. Based on Tagore's short story, Nastanir, Broken Nest, the film tells of a lonely wife, Charu, in 19th century Bengal, and her growing feelings for her brother-in-law, Amal.
আমি এসেছি নূতন দেশে, ভুবন ভ্রমিয়া শেষে আমি এসেছি নূতন দেশে। আমি অতিথি তোমারি দ্বারে, আমি অতিথি তোমারি দ্বারে, ওগো বিদেশিনী, ওগো বিদেশিনী, ওগো বিদেশিনী, ওগো বিদেশিনী।
In the post-Charulata period, Ray took on various projects, from fantasy, science fiction, and detective stories to historical dramas. Ray also experimented during this period, exploring contemporary issues of Indian life in response to the perceived lack of these issues in his films.
I find that whenever I need to be energized or re-inspired, I go back to his films along with other great directors like Rossellini and Visconti and others. But what was special to me about Ray was that I come from a working class family that was not educated, so there were no books in my house, and I think there was no other way for me to be introduced to Indian culture, the Indian people, aside from watching his films. We saw many films and we had television. And so if it wasn't for seeing Satyajit Ray's films, I don't think I would have had any idea the opening up of such an extraordinary culture and such a great civilization. And so I became a fanatic watching his films. I would find anywhere they were playing. In fact, the first Ray film I saw it on television in New York on a Sunday night, cut up with commercials in it, and dubbed in English, Panchali. So that was the first one, and I was amazed because I think you see, this was a film where I'm Sicilian American, and we have our own little village in a way we lived in. So you can't imagine anything more different than you know. And yet we identified immediately as human beings, as people, as family. And this was amazing. And the Apu Trilogy, all 3 films, you know. And then I just sought out his films. The other thing I was fascinated by was the music. And I sought the music out, and I found one album by Ravi Shankar, which was called Improvisation, who composed the music for that film. I found one album uptown on 49th Street.
So
and
you've seen the music room.
Yes, well, the music room for me is my favorite. I'm a great admirer of all his films, but I like Devi, the Apu Trilogy, Distant Thunder, the Chess Players, Charulata. I may not be pronouncing it properly, excuse me, but the music room for me, I studied over the years. Now, finally, I think 7 years ago, they made a beautiful restoration, and I screened it at least 3 times already. In the past 2 years. I'm very, very concerned, particularly of films from India that be shown in America in their proper form.
The first major film in this period is 1966's Nayak, The Hero, the story of a screen hero traveling in a train and meeting a young, sympathetic female journalist. Starring Uttam Kumar and Sharmila Tagore, in the 24 hours of the journey, the film explores the inner conflict of the apparently highly successful matinee idol. Although the film received a Critics' Prize at the Berlin International Film Festival, it had a generally muted reception. In 1967, Ray wrote a script for a film to be called The Alien, based on his short story Banku Babur Bandhu, Banku Babu's Friend, which he wrote in 1962 for Sandesh magazine. It was planned to be a US and India co-production with Columbia Pictures, with Marlon Brando and Peter Sellers cast in the leading roles. Ray found that his script had been copyrighted and the fee appropriated by Michael Wilson. Wilson had initially approached Ray through their mutual friend, Arthur C. Clarke, to represent him in Hollywood. Wilson copyrighted the script credited to Mike Wilson and Satyajit Ray, although he contributed only one word. Ray later said that he never received compensation for the script. After Brando dropped out of the project, the producers tried to replace him with James Coburn, but Ray became disillusioned and returned to Calcutta. Columbia attempted to revive the project, without success, in the 1970s and 1980s. Soumitra Chatterjee said in his book, The Master and I, that Satyajit Ray traded him as a son and a precious gem that Satyajit has found in his life. Soumitra says he believes that what he was is one of the main reason was Mr. Satyajit Ray. These two people had a great bonding together and a sense of family bonds. They were like family to each other. AD loved each other very much. They were friends. Satyajit was big brother, and Soumitra was his small brother. In 1969, Ray directed one of his most commercially successful films, a musical fantasy based on a children's story written by his grandfather, Gopi Gain Bagha Bain, The Adventures of Gopi and Bagha. It is about the journey of Gopi the singer and Bagha the drummer, endowed with 3 gifts by the King of Ghosts to stop an impending war between 2 neighboring kingdoms. One of his most expensive projects, the film was also difficult to finance. Ray abandoned his desire to shoot it in color, as he turned down an offer that would have forced him to cast a certain Hindi film actor as the lead. Next, Ray directed the film adaptation of a novel by the poet and writer Sunil Gangopadhyay. Featuring a musical motif structure acclaimed as more complex than Charulata, Aranyar Din Ratri, 1970, Days and Nights in the Forest, follows 4 urban young men going to the forests for a vacation. They try to leave their daily lives behind, but one of them encounters women, and it becomes a deep study of the Indian middle class. First shown at the New York Film Festival in 1970, critic Pauline Kael wrote, "Satyajit Ray's films can give rise to a more complex feeling of happiness in me than the work of any other director. No artist has done more than Ray to make us reevaluate the commonplace." Also in the 1970s, Ray adapted 2 of his popular stories as detective films. Although mainly aimed at children and young adults, both Sonar Kella, The Golden Fortress, and Joy Baba Felunath, The Elephant God, became cult favorites. In 1977, Ray completed Shatranj Ke Khilari, The Chess Players, a Hindustani film based on a short story by Munshi Premchand. It was set in Lucknow in the state of Oudh, a year before the Indian Rebellion of 1857. A commentary on issues related to the colonization of India by the British, it was Ray's first feature film in a language other than Bengali. It starred a high-profile cast including Sanjeev Kumar, Saeed Jaffrey, Amjad Khan, Shabana Azmi, Victor Banerjee, and Richard Attenborough. Despite the film's limited budget, the Washington Post critic gave it a positive review. He, Ray, possesses what many overindulged Hollywood filmmakers often lack, a view of history.
I think it's belittling to someone like the great Mr. Satyajit Ray to say, "Humko unki ye film pasand thi." I think he's even beyond the films he's made. He's how to say, he's an institution for cinema, not only in this country, but across the world. So we actually need to think of him with a lot of reverence instead of commenting on his work. And someone like me, who is into films, compared to him in a very minuscule way, I would never be able to comment on a great and say, "Oh, unki ye film bahut achhi thi."
In 1980, Ray made a sequel to Gopi Gain Bagha Bain, a somewhat political Hirak Rajardesha, Kingdom of Diamonds. The Kingdom of the Evil Diamond King, or Hirak Raj, is an allusion to India during Indira Gandhi's emergency period. Along with his acclaimed short film Piku, Piku's Diary, and hour-long Hindi film Sadgati, this was the culmination of his work in this period.
We were filming a shot where there's a piece of jaggery, and Manik Babu was taking a shot, and an ant is supposed to climb on it. So he was waiting for this shot, all set, and they left the ants there. Now he's sitting. This bugger will try and climb up with his 2 little mustaches, do this, do that, and then climb down. He would wait. Then again he starts climbing, so he is again ready. When he did it about 3 times, he said, "Dutsa."
There is no favorite director. Once I wanted to work with Satyajit Ray. Unfortunately, I couldn't. When I came to know in his personal diary, he wrote that I want to work with Nana Patekar. I think that it was the biggest award I got.
Met a boy. His name was Anil. I don't remember his surname. Maybe it was Gupta or Agarwal. At that age, surnames are not very important. He was an unusual boy. Although he was perhaps 16 years old, he had made a film society. He used to write letters to Mr. Ray. In that film society, I saw Pathor Panchali. And this boy was an unusual person. This boy used to write letters to Mr. Ray. And ultimately he invited him for a shooting. So from Bhopal, all the way from Bhopal, he went for the shooting of Kanchenjunga. And perhaps he was there for a few days. And he came back and told us the stories. And he told me about, where is he? Okay, about you also, Sandip sir. He said that he was very young and you were at that shooting and you had a camera. And Sylvia Norris was there on the shooting of Kanchenjunga. This was this Pathor Panchali which, thanks to this unusual boy, I could see.
কিন্তু ওই যে পথের পাঁচালী দেখলাম, তাতে আমার সমস্ত মন পাল্টে গেল, সমস্ত মনটা পাল্টে গেল যে তাহলে তো সিনেমায় একটা সাংঘাতিক জিনিস হতে পারে। এবং সিনেমার অভিনয়টা কেমন হবে, আমি ছোটবেলার থেকে সিনেমা অ্যাডিক্ট, ভীষণ সিনেমা দেখতাম, কিন্তু কখনো সেরকমভাবে তখন বিচার বুদ্ধি প্রয়োগ করে বা এ করে কখনো ভাবিনি। তারপরে যখন থেকে সিনেমা অভিনয় নিয়ে সত্যি সত্যি ভাবনা চিন্তা শুরু করলাম, তখন তো নাটকে মজে গিয়েছি, সিনেমার কথা ভাবতাম না। কিন্তু পথের পাঁচালী থেকে বুঝলাম যে আমার পথটা হবে এই রকম সিনেমার অভিনয়। যদি বলেন পথটা কি, পথটা কি মানে খুব মোটা কথায় বলতে গেলে তো স্বাভাবিক অভিনয় অমুক তমুক সবাই বলে, আমি কিন্তু স্বাভাবিক অভিনয় বলছি না। স্বাভাবিক বলে কিছু নেই অভিনয়ের মধ্যে, যেন বা স্বাভাবিক, সত্যি কথা বলতে কি তাই নয় কি, স্বাভাবিক বলে তো কিছু হতে পারে না, আমাকে কিছু একটা করতে হচ্ছে, কিছু একটা তৈরি করতে হচ্ছে, কিছু একটা গড়তে হচ্ছে। সেই গড়নটা জীবন সদৃশ হচ্ছে কিনা এটি ছিল আমার দেখার কর্তব্য।
In 1983, while working on Garnered, Home in the World, Ray suffered a heart attack. It would severely limit his productivity in the remaining 9 years of his life. Garnered, an adaptation of the novel of the same name, was completed in 1984 with the help of Ray's son, who served as a camera operator from then onward. It is about the dangers of fervent nationalism. He wrote the first draft of a script for it in the 1940s. Despite rough patches due to Ray's illness, the film did receive some acclaim. Critic Vincent Canby gave the film a maximum rating of 5 stars and praised the performances of the 3 lead actors. It also featured the first kiss scene portrayed in Ray's films. In 1987, Ray recovered to an extent to direct the 1990 film Shaka Pro Shaka, Branches of the Tree. It depicts an old man who has lived a life of honesty and learns of the corruption of 3 of his sons. The final scene shows the father finding solace only in the companionship of his 4th son, who is uncorrupted but mentally ill due to a head injury sustained while he was studying in England. Ray's last film, Agantuk, The Stranger, is lighter in mood but not in theme. When a long-lost uncle arrives to visit his niece in Calcutta, he arouses suspicion as to his motive. It provokes far-ranging questions in the film about civilization. Critic Hal Hinson was impressed and thought Agantuk shows all the virtues of a master artist in full maturity. A heavy smoker but non-drinker, Ray valued work more than anything else. He would work 12 hours a day and go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. He also enjoyed collecting antiques, manuscripts, rare gramophone records, paintings, and rare books. On his religious views, he was an atheist.
এই মহান মানুষটাকে নিয়ে কথা বলার যোগ্যতা তো আমার নেই। আমার শ্রদ্ধা, আমার প্রণাম, কিন্তু একটা ছোট্ট ঘটনা আমি বলতে চাই, সেটা ভীষণ ব্যক্তিগত। যে বাড়িটা ঢুকতে প্রচুর মানুষ ভয় পান, আমিও ঠিক সেইভাবেই প্রচুর মানুষদের মতন ভয় পেয়ে গেছিলাম আমার বোনের বিয়ের একটা কার্ড দিতে। তখন আমার 16 কি 17 বছর বয়স। বেল মারলাম, দরজাটা খুললেন মানিক জেঠু, মানে অবশ্যই আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় সত্যজিৎ বাবু। সব থেকে ইম্পর্টেন্টলি আমি ভেবেছিলাম কার্ডটা ওখান থেকে নিয়ে আমার বোনের বিয়ে আমি নিমন্ত্রণ করলাম, হয়তো আমি বেরিয়ে আসবো। উনি আমার ভেতরে নিয়ে গেলেন, জল খাওয়ালেন, অনেকক্ষণ কথা বললেন, এবং এই কথাগুলো সিনেমা ওরিয়েন্টেড কিচ্ছু নয়, ব্যক্তিগত কথা। মা কেমন আছেন, বোন কেমন আছেন, কি হচ্ছে। পরে আজ যখন মনে করি, তখন আসলে যে কারণে হি ইজ ওয়ান অফ দ্য ফাইনেস্ট ফিল্ম মেকার, উনি বোধহয় আমার মনের অবস্থাটা বুঝতে চেয়েছিলেন। একটা 17 বছরের ছেলে একা এসে তার বোনের বিয়ের নেমন্তন্ন পত্র দিচ্ছেন, সেই সময় দাঁড়িয়ে ওনার ওই সময়টুকু আমার কাছে একটা বিশাল অনুপ্রেরণা ছিল। আসলে এনারা অত বড় মাপের মানুষ, অত বড় মাপের পরিচালক এই জন্যে ওনারা ভেতরটা বুঝতে পারেন একটা মানুষের। তখন বুঝিনি, তখন ওটা আমার কাছে এক্সাইটমেন্ট। পরবর্তীকালে বুঝেছিলাম যে মানুষটা ওইটুকু সময় যে আমায় দিলেন, 15 মিনিট, 20 মিনিট, 25 মিনিট, সেটা যা আমাকে আসলে কোথাও একটা সাপোর্ট করলেন, কোথাও একটা অদ্ভুতভাবে শক্তি যোগালেন। আপনাকে আমার প্রণাম, শ্রদ্ধা, সব সময়।
In 1992, Ray's health deteriorated due to heart complications. He was admitted to a hospital but never recovered. 24 days before his death, Ray was presented with an honorary Oscar for his lifetime achievement, and it is said to be that he is the most completed filmmaker till date. No one can take his place, and he achieved the most rewards and awards which anyone could ever ask for. He gained popularity more outside the nation than in his own nation.
And he had this wonderful booming voice, and but there was always a twinkle in his eyes, and he looked at you directly. He always made eye contact and kind of came to your eye level. He didn't miss anything. He observed you, and you knew that very little escaped him.
This year, the Academy Board of Governors has voted to award an honorary Oscar to the great Indian filmmaker, Satyajit Ray. Mr. Ray has been making films for almost 4 decades. The Academy recognizes Mr. Ray's rare mastery of the art of motion pictures and of his profound humanism, which has had an indelible influence on filmmakers and audiences throughout the world. He has said that he aims to capture both what is unique in the Indian experience and that which is universal. Unfortunately, Mr. Ray is not well and cannot be with us tonight, but he is able to speak with us from his hospital room in Calcutta.
Well, it's been an extraordinary experience for me to be here tonight to receive this magnificent award, certainly the best achievement of my movie-making career. As a small schoolboy, I was terribly interested in the cinema, became a film fan, wrote to Deanna Durbin, got a reply, was delighted, wrote to Ginger Rogers, didn't get a reply. Then, of course, I got interested in the cinema as an art form, and I wrote a 12-page letter to Billy Wilder after seeing Double Indemnity. He didn't reply either. Well, there you are. But I have learned everything I've learned about the craft of cinema from the making of American films. I've been watching American films very carefully over the years, and I love them for what they entertained, and then later loved them for what they taught. So I express my gratitude to the American cinema, to the Motion Picture Association, who given me this award and who made me so proud. Thank you very, very much.
এই দৃশ্যটাকে এমন একটা ওইটুকুন সময়ের মধ্যে আমরা ক্লাইম্যাক্সের দিকে নিয়ে যাওয়া হয়, সেটা অ্যামেজিং একদম। তুমি কে? আমি বলে বাবা বলছে না, বাবা বললে যদি ইয়ে লাগে, আমি তোমার বন্ধু, তুমি আমাকে বাবার কাছে নিয়ে যাবে। এই কথাটার মধ্যে ফ্লাডেড হয়ে যায় সমস্ত ইমোশনটা একদম। নিশ্চিত তুমি যাবে আমার সঙ্গে? আর পেছনে একটু ফিরে দেখে বলে, দাদু বলবে। দাদু জানতে পারবে না। তখন ওর সঙ্গে একদম একটা বন্ডিং এর মধ্যে ইনভলভ হচ্ছে আস্তে আস্তে। আমি দাদুকে বলবো না, বলে হাতটা বাড়িয়ে দেওয়া, ছুটে আসতে থাকে, তাকে কোলে তুলে নেয়। সেটা মানে আমার তো মনে হচ্ছে ইটার্নাল সিম্বল অফ মানে পেরেন্ট এন্ড